The worlds of sports and gambling go hand in hand. It's a symbiotic relationship that funds degeneracy and bankrupts millions of fans around the world.
And we do it again and again.
But it's not just fans who love to get involved. Even top percentile athletes become susceptible to a cheeky parlay. However, when you reach the pinnacle of sport, where all that matters is winning, it becomes the closest vice they can get their fix. As Michael Jordan once said, "I don't have a gambling problem, I have a competition problem." During the early parts of his career, MJ very much tried to stay away from degeneracy, still being fairly innocent compared to his older teammates at the Chicago Bulls. During The Last Dance, he recalled that during his rookie season, he once walked in the whole team doing Colombian marching powder, which wasn't uncommon at all, as drug use was rife in the NBA during the 80s. So the first thing he said was, "Look man, I'm out. All I could think about is, if they come and raid this place right now, I'm just as guilty as everybody else in this room. I just enjoyed hanging out, playing cards, and watching movies. You know, I wasn't going to the club. I was just looking to get some rest, get up and go play." This competitiveness and willing to win was woven into MJ's DNA.
My mentality was to go out and win at any cost.
So when off the court, the easiest way to get this fix was gambling. Whether it was playing cards or wagering over trivial matters with teammates, Jordan's desire to win at everything often led him into high-stakes situations. Former Bulls teammates and coaches have described him as someone who needed to compete constantly. Gambling for Jordan wasn't about money, it was about dominance, knowing that he had your money in his pocket and proving that he was the best at everything he did. As his NBA career took off in the 1980s, so did the stakes. Jordan's gambling moved beyond friendly wagers and into high-stake poker games, casino visits, and private golf matches with thousands of dollars on the line. One of the most infamous incidents in MJ's gambling history occurred during the 1993 Eastern Conference Finals against the New York Knicks. On the night before Game 2 of the series, Jordan was spotted gambling in Atlantic City, New Jersey, until 2:30 on a Tuesday morning and returned to New York just 10 hours before a game that night. The Bulls subsequently lost Game 2, and the incident immediately drew media attention and criticism. Jordan defended himself by saying that he had gone to Atlantic City with his father to clear his mind and that he returned before midnight. However, questions were raised about whether his gambling was becoming a distraction and affecting his performance and commitment. The story made headlines nationwide, sparking a debate about whether it was appropriate behavior for the NBA's biggest star during such a crucial time. The Atlantic City incident marked as the beginning of a deeper media and public scrutiny of Jordan's gambling. It suggested that this wasn't just a private hobby. It had started to intersect with his professional life, perhaps even to his detriment.
Do you have a gambling problem?
No, I enjoy it. It's a hobby. If I had a problem, I'd be starving. I'd be hawking this watch. My championship rings, I would sell my house. I would do this. My wife had left me, or she'd be starving, or my kids would be starving. I do not have a problem. I enjoy gambling.
You've had very little controversy surrounding your life. Well, one was a betting accusation a couple of years ago. How do you handle things like that?
Well, I think I've led a very positive life. And yeah, naturally, you're going to have some things that I've done wrong that most people have done. The gambling thing is something that kind of got out of proportion. And yeah, I took my punishment in that situation. I dealt with it. But most of my life is as normal as it can be. You know, I think I'm an easy guy to get along with. I'm a people type of person. And, you know, my life is no different than the next person. So I think it's kind of understandable when people see me out doing things that, hey, he's not doing nothing that no one else probably would be doing.
The most controversial aspect to Jordan's gambling is a conspiracy theory that actually played a role in his first retirement from basketball. In October 1993, at just 30 years old, and at the peak of his powers and off the back of a three-peat, Jordan shocked the world by announcing his retirement from the NBA. He cited the murder of his father, James Jordan, earlier that summer, and a waning desire to play as the main reasons. However, the timing raised eyebrows. The retirement came not long after the Atlantic City incident, and the release of author Richard Esquinida's book titled Michael and Me Our Gambling Addiction, My Cry for Help, which detailed Mike's addiction and how he once owed Richard $1.2 million by simply losing one too many double or nothing bets. Some theorists speculate that Jordan's retirement was actually a secret suspension by the NBA due to his gambling. They pointed to the NBA Commissioner David Stern's close relationship with Jordan and suggested that the league quietly asked him to step away to avoid a public scandal. Stern denied these claims repeatedly. repeatedly, calling them absolutely ridiculous. Jordan himself has also dismissed them as fiction. The theory persists in pop culture, partly because of how sudden and inexplicable his retirement seemed at the time. When Jordan returned to the NBA in 1995, the theory only gained more traction. What better way to cover up a suspension than a staged retirement? Some people have also speculated that because Jordan's father always wanted him to play baseball, that was also the reason for him leaving the court for the mound. There's also a lot of conspiracies that also link Jordan's gambling to his father's murder, allegations of betting on his own basketball games, and people of the underworld. If I was to go into every single detail, we'd be here for hours and I wouldn't be able to do it justice. However, BuzzFeed Unsolved made a video years ago titled The Suspicious Retirement of Michael Jordan that explains a lot of these theories. When Mike did make his comeback to the NBA, his gambling tendencies and need to win was still evident, as can be seen from The Last Dance, which showed Mike in 1998 gambling with the security on coin toss games before games. When this footage was released, it kind of became a meme and was even parodied on an SNL sketch. But throughout the decades, MJ has remained unapologetic about his gambling habits. He has often framed them as legal, personal decisions and has emphasized that he never wagered on basketball games or anything to compromise the integrity of the sport. In the years since his retirement, his gambling tendencies have allegedly mellowed out somewhat, though he still plays high-stake games, with Drake recalling that MJ lost $20,000 to him in a game of ping pong. Being a literal billionaire, even if these rumored losses were true about MJ's gambling career, they would actually be a tiny fraction of his actual wealth. So while gambling has led him into controversy, it's never seriously endangered his financial empire. Michael Jordan's NBA and Space Jam co-star, Charles Barkley, had a similar need to win outside the court.
What do you like about gambling?
Well, winning. It's exciting to win money.
Is it the winning that you
Yeah, it's
like?
winning.
Okay.
You know, people out here, I hear all these people talk about you just like the action. No, I like the money actually. And it always sucks when you lose. It's a great feeling when you win. I think that the thing that I conquered about my gambling was I changed my mentality. I'm not trying to win a lot. I'm just trying to win. You know, Graham, I've won $1 million probably 4 or 5 times. Well, I won $1 million.
In a single day.
In a single day. But I've lost a lot more millions in a single day.
How many times do you think you've lost $1 million in a single day?
At least 10 to 15, somewhere in there.
During his playing career, Barkley developed a deep affection for games like blackjack, poker, and betting on golf with his mate Mike.
We be playing a couple $100 a hole, nothing but. And then he be playing some guy for like $100,000. He's like, Charles, pick that up. I'm like, just put this for $200. He's like, pick that up, Charles, get out of my way. You're in my line. I said, well, how much is that put for? He's like, $300,000. I said, let me get out of your line. Like, hey, you like, seriously, like, it was crazy, man. They were paying for like hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was crazy.
Even though Charles was incredibly wealthy, he was never on the same level as MJ, but he still managed to lose millions and millions through his like-minded need to win, with one particularly rough night costing Charles $2.5 million in a single sitting. More recently, in 2008, Barkley found himself in hot water when the Wynn Las Vegas casino filed a civil complaint against him for failing to pay $400,000 in gambling debts. He settled the debt and the case was dropped, but this marked a huge turning point in his public stance on gambling. Shortly after, Charles would take a break from gambling for a couple years, but would return to the casino in moderation with a better mindset.
Do you think it's ever gotten out of hand?
Yeah, no questions got out of hand. I quit for like 2 years. And I remember talking to my friends one night, and they said, oh, gambling's not your problem. You're just an idiot. And I said, what does that mean? They're like, Charles, gambling is not your problem. They said, we have been sitting at the table with you, and you've been up $300, $400, $500, $600, $700,000, and we says, let's quit. And you developed this thing where you're like, I've got to win $1 million. They says, when we go gambling, if you win a couple $100,000 or $50,000, let's quit and go have fun. Let's don't try to break the casino because you can't break the casino. And since I developed that mentality, gambling is a lot more fun to me.
Both Jordan and Barkley may have won and lost a lot of money on the golf course, but in the realm of the golf world and gambling, only one man takes the cake. John Daly is one of the most colourful and controversial figures in professional golf. Known for his booming drives, unorthodox lifestyle, and unapologetic presence, Daly's career has been a roller coaster of triumphs and self-inflicted setbacks. Among the most talked about aspects of his personal life is his gambling habit, a decade-long saga that cost him tens of millions and nearly derailed his life.
You wrote you've lost $55 million gambling over the years. How's that even possible?
Stupidity, but it is. I mean, it's, when we did the book, me and Glenn Wagner, we looked and we went through all my tax records to find out, because I really didn't know. And it just came out to that.
When you add that up and realize just how
Stupid.
significant the losses are, I mean, what do you say when you guys first came up with that number?
He couldn't believe it, and I was shocked. I thought it might have been 20, 25, but I had no idea it was 55 to 57 million. No, it's crazy.
John burst onto the PGA Tour scene in the early 1990s with his power and charisma, winning the 1991 PGA Championship as an alternate. With fame and fortune aiding his other addictions, he also dove headfirst into serious wagering, regularly gambling for hours and sometimes days at a time. His preferred choice of gambling was slot machines and sports betting, sometimes playing $5,000 to $10,000 per pool on slots. Daly would often gamble while on the road for golf tournaments and even after competition rounds. In his 2006 autobiography, My Life In and Out of the Rough, he described wild casino sessions where he would lose $1 million in a single day, and once admitted to gambling away $1.6 million in 5 hours, playing $5,000 spins on slots in Vegas.
I started playing slots, knowing that if I took a lot less money in or didn't get a marker for it, the slots, you could last a little bit longer. But the Wynn came out with it was a double diamond machine with the cherry, and it was a $5,000 one coin pool. If you got a cherry, you got 10 grand.
But you're also playing $5,000.
20 pools is 100 grand. I played that maybe 5 or 6 times that it was there. It's not there anymore. But now I go in, if I gamble, I go in and play the $25 slots. If I hit something, I might move up to the hundreds, but don't do that. Don't do what I used to do anymore.
In his autobiography, John also mentioned after one particularly bad tournament, he got drunk, went to Vegas and blew $1.2 million in a matter of hours. And then on a separate occasion, he won $750,000 in a single casino run and immediately lost $600,000 of it playing double or nothing. Love him or hate him, John has always been remarkably candid about his lifestyle. He doesn't try to hide or glamorize his past. Instead, he wears his flaws like badges of chaotic honor. In fact, despite the staggering financial toll, John has always downplayed the regret of losing so much money.
How much, if at all, do you regret that?
I'm not gonna sit here, people are gonna say I should say I regret it, but I did it, I move on from it. I had a lot of fun doing it. That's over from probably 91 to 2007.
Okay, it's still 55
16
million.
years, just a little over, what, 4 or 5 million a year, maybe? No, what was that,
At
3?
least you can laugh about it.
$3.1 million a year is basically what that, 3.2, somewhere in there.
Yeah, only 3.1 or 3.2 million.
No, I know, but
what do you like about gambling?
I love the action. I love the adrenaline going in there. When I was playing a lot of blackjack, you could play 7 hands at any amount you wanted. Now I think it's only 3 hands, pretty much all over the world. But I'd go in and play 7 hands at 5, 10, 15,000 a hand back then.
Although gambling has never really put John in a serious financial situation, the same can't be said for baseball legend and degenerate Master General Lenny Dykstra. In 1981, the New York Mets drafted Lenny in the 13th round, straight out of high school. For the next 4 years, Lenny honed his skills in the Mets minor league team, befriending fellow outfielder and teammate Billy Beane. Billy is also the real-life person that Brad Pitt portrays in the iconic film Moneyball, which depicts the story of him revolutionizing baseball through his algorithmic approaches to recruitment. Reflecting on his old teammate, Billy stated that Lenny was perfectly designed emotionally to play baseball, and that he had no concept of failure. By 1985, Lenny was promoted to the first team and quickly gained a reputation for being one of the toughest players in the league. His abrasive and hard-nosed personality quickly gained him the nickname of Nails. With no formal education to speak of to fall back on, Lenny did whatever it took to stay in the league. Fueled by copious amounts of chewing tobacco, the guy didn't even read a book until after his career, because he was worried that it would make his eyes worse and ruin his batting skills. This need to win helped him take him to 3 All-Star Game wins, a World Series championship, a Silver Slugger Award, voted the most hated player 5 times in a row, and over $24 million in salary during his playing career. Lenny was no stranger to gambling during his playing career. During a ride-along interview with Philadelphia Magazine at a casino in 1993, the journalist recounts an outburst after losing entire stack of chips. He throws over a red queen. He throws over a black 4. He's given a red 8. He loses. He curses. The bald guy at the other end of the long table now asks softly, with heartbreak in his voice, "What are you doing, Lenny?" Lenny is taken aback, way back. Someone has actually spoken to him and said what needs to be said. And you realise how alone Dykstra has been. No wife, no entourage, no buddies. "Why you want to show me up, dude?" he beseeches. "I give a fuck about the money. I know how much fucking money I'm losing. It's my fucking money. I know how much fucking money I'm fucking losing. I give a fuck. Fuck you." His rage has turned outward, his body dashing around the table, nostrils flaring, fists clenched. After retiring from the MLB in 1996, Dykstra didn't just fade away quietly. He was still addicted to the thrill. Gambling quickly filled this competitive void. According to multiple interviews, Lenny wasn't just the type to bet casually. He chased big scores in casinos, on sports, and through business deals that were half hustle, half pipe dream. At his peak, he was once reportedly betting 6 figures on single sports games, and once boasted about dropping $500,000 in one day. It wasn't long before his gambling spiraled out of control. Dykstra used gambling as both a rush and an escape, often tied to his other vices: drugs, alcohol, and risky investments. In the mid-2000s, he tried to reinvent himself as a financial guru for pro athletes, launching a magazine and selling investment tips, all while living at former hockey player Wayne Gretzky's mansion. But it all came crashing down. In 2009, he filed for bankruptcy, claiming debts of more than $30 million, including to multiple casinos and bookies. His gambling, along with fraud, theft, and addiction, was part of what led to multiple arrests and eventually prison time. Even behind bars, Dykstra claimed to be hustling and gambling. In a 2013 interview, he said he ran gambling pools and card games inside prison to keep his mind sharp, even while being beaten by prison guards that led to permanent brain damage and spending months in solitary confinement. Post-prison, he's remained unfiltered, giving chaotic interviews about gambling, crime, and how he was once kidnapped by Uber drivers. Yes, seriously, the guy is fucking crazy. While gambling addictions in American sports often play out in Vegas or behind closed doors, in the UK it's often tied to footballers and online betting, and Wayne Rooney is a classic case. The Manchester United and England legend may have terrorised defences on the pitch, he was battling demons of a different kind. As one of the greatest English footballers to ever play the game, at a young age Rooney had money to burn, more specifically 300 grand a week, and had a lot of time on his hands in between travelling for games, finding himself getting sucked into the world of online betting. Whether it's horse racing, football accumulators, or casino games, Rooney placed bets impulsively and recklessly.
I was a young lad, just come into a lot of money, and when you go away with Manchester United to an away game, you stay in a hotel, and especially when you're away with England, you're in the hotel for 7 to 10 days, and you get bored, and you end up doing things to fill the time, and at that time, gambling was one of them. It was easy to put bets on. It weren't like I had to go into a bookies and put bets on where there is limits. This was over the phone where it was just numbers, and it didn't feel like real money, but before you know it, you've lost a good bit of money, and you don't realise actually the amount you're putting on at the time. I won at the start actually, a couple of bets. I thought this is easy, it's easy money, so it sucks you in a bit more, and then ends up losing, ends up down, ends up chasing my bets, trying to win my money back. You're there to play for your country or to play for your club, and when you're losing money the way I was, then it will affect you. Thankfully I managed to obviously just pay up what I'd lost and move on, and I didn't gamble again. I'd learned from my mistakes, and I think if you carry on gambling, you lose more, then that's when you can get sucked in, and you can be in a bad situation.
In his 2017 autobiography, Rooney revealed that during his early 20s, he lost hundreds of thousands of pounds betting. He allegedly lost over £500,000 in a 2-hour gambling spree, and at one point was reportedly in over £700,000 worth of gambling debt. The media got wind of this during his turbulent years at United, where headlines about gambling debts and alleged loans from teammates began to surface. In later years, he has stated about how this obviously affected his performance on the pitch. You're there to play for your country or club, and when you're losing money the way I was, it will affect you. Thankfully, I managed to pay up what I lost and didn't gamble again. I've learned from my mistakes. If you carry on gambling, you lose more. That's when you get sucked into a bad situation. Like many other footballers, Rooney eventually got help and has since become an advocate for better education and support for young players vulnerable to gambling culture, especially with how embedded betting is in the UK. From club sponsors to halftime ads, gambling is everywhere in the game. making it difficult for athletes to escape it entirely. For a lot of athletes, except for John Daly, they can't drink, they can't smoke, and they can't do drugs without hindering performance and testing positive for something. So one of the few vices that is left is gambling, and it's usually seen as pretty harmless because it's fun and they have millions of dollars to burn through. But in reality, it never really ends well. Thank you so much for watching this video, it really does mean a lot to me. Make sure to follow me on all of my socials at Phat Mima, like, subscribe, and comment below what you want to see next.